Okay. I admit it. I admit my ignorance. It's tough when there's a band that you've loved since childhood. You kind of lose connection with. You kind of lose the story with. And then, so you finally, and you don't know, and you make stupid mistakes and stupid assumptions, or just knowledge is gone. That happened recently. So, talking about the band Riot, I grew up listening to them, loved the early years, the Guy Speranza years, the Rhett Forrester years, all of that stuff. And then kind of lost track during the years of the late 90s on into, current time frame. And then, so I kind of lost pace prior to Thundersteel. Didn't know the whole story behind all of that. From the time before Thundersteel on, I kind of, ignored it. But then later in life, in past couple years, have been picking up and listening to a lot of stuff, but never sat down to actually understand the story and all the changes and the singers and all that. Well, just recently, the 5th part of a documentary caught my eye, and I went back and watched all 5 parts, all 4 of the previous ones, and I watched the 5th one by NYC Rocks TV. Go to their channel, NYC New York City, NYC Rocks TV, and they've done a 5-part series on Riot called Immortal Soul, the documentary, and it starts in the beginning, 70s all the way up, and through that I was able to do to recap and understand the whole storyline, and realized, my ignorance in this area. So, mainly between the whole, after the Rhett Forrester years, the band went on hiatus, and, people changed or whatever. Then they come back with Thundersteel, which is a whole different style and a whole different lineup. And so, I didn't know all the details there, but I learned that now. Then, eventually Tony Moore moved on, and they got a new singer, and he did quite a few albums. That's the years where I didn't pay as much attention. They really became more of a hard rock band again. They left away from anyway. So, and then later, when I started getting into buying vinyl again, I found, the Immortal Soul album for real cheap in a store that was closing in my area. And again, I bought it just because it's Riot, but I knew that it was a different Riot. And I bought it. And I had it, and I enjoyed it. And eventually I started considering maybe selling it, because the album is actually worth a lot of money. And I thought, well, do I really need it? And at some point, shortly after that, I'm thinking, there's no way, it's worth something. I'm not doing that. Again, so when I watch a documentary, I come to find out, I didn't really know. But what this album is this is a return to the Thundersteel lineup. So you have all these years, with the different singer after Tony Moore left, and they have the new singer, and then you've got this album where it's a return to some of the original members from the late 80s, early 90s with the Tony Moore era, and this is a Tony Moore return. And also didn't really realize, I knew that Mark Reale passed away, but I didn't know the timeline. This is the last album he made, so he makes this album, and then the next year he passes away. So, again, it fit in. And I feel stupid for not knowing this. It's just, there's so many bands to keep track of. I didn't know the whole story. So this album's very pivotal because it's the last album he appears on. It's the last, he's the only original member in Riot. It's the return of the Tony Moore era. It's the return to that kind of a more of a style from the Thundersteel era. That's what they were shooting for. It's a leaving of the style from the past 20 years prior to this, where they were doing, or 10 or whatever, 15 years prior to this, when they were doing, the more hard rock stuff. Well, then, I knew of Riot 5, or Riot V. It's Riot 5. But anyway, I didn't know the whole story behind what that was about until I watched this documentary. And then I realized after Mark passed away, he's the founding member. He's the one that kept the flame alive. He is Riot. Well, the band was at a point where they just released a great album. They're coming back with the Fury. He passes away. The band decides to continue on in his honor, because his father said, continue on. My son would want it that way. And so they launch into Riot 5. They didn't want to use the name Riot because it's like sacred to a degree, because Mark's gone. So this is the 5th lineup of the band. You had the Guy Speranza, you had the Rhett Forrester. So you had 4 other renditions of the band before this. And so this is rendition 5. They brought in somebody to replace Mark. Now, Tony Moore did not want to, he decided not to continue on with the band, so they did get, you know, a new singer, and then they replaced the guitar player. So this is where we start getting Todd Michael Hall, which I have a solo album by him. But so this is a new lineup, and it's Riot 5, and they play classic Riot plus new stuff, and it is more in the Thundersteel era type style, power metal type stuff. So I just got this in. These albums I had on my wish list when they first came out years ago, and then they disappeared and became harder to find, and then, you know, they just became, they weren't available so much on Amazon. So I had to track these down actually on eBay. I found this one for an excellent price, cheaper than it would have been if I bought it when it came out in the store. It was used. It comes with the CD. It's a double record set. It's on blue. This was a great deal. I bid on it, and, you know, thought, you know, it was like at the $20-something, $25, $26. I bid on it and thought somebody's going to outbid me. And then I went back and looked and said, oh, look, I won. So, yeah. And this came, and I got that. So I thought, I've got to keep up with this Riot stuff. There's all of the stuff prior to this, Riot 5, and prior to the Immortal Soul with the other singer. Most all that stuff is being reissued on vinyl, like in the past couple months. So it is going to be readily able to get those two. So yeah, that I'll be eventually working my way through that. But I wanted to grab this before it was totally gone. And like I said, I found a used copy in perfect condition. And then this one I had to buy new from another dealer overseas. So the shipping was a little bit, the price of the album was perfect. Shipping was a little much. And so now I have both of the Riot 5 albums. Now there is a live album that it's like a triple live album, and it's on Amazon, not even for sale anymore. So again, it's hard to find. I haven't seen it even used for sale or on eBay. So there is a live album. And then there's apparently another live album from the Keep It Real Festival or something. But I can't, I find that on Discogs listed, but I'm not finding it anywhere on the website for the label. But anyway, it's apparently out there. There's a live album from the time frame. But this, and I listened to this online when it first came out. Loved this album when it came out, so I knew I wanted to get this. But I hesitated, and then it disappeared, and it's really hard to find, and so I found one on eBay again. This one was brand new. It's on silver, and these are like, what, Nuclear Blast records, so it's not like they're, you know, super tough. Anyway, the band has a brand new album, it comes out in May, I believe. So yeah, I'll be picking that up. Also, finally learned the whole story behind the Seal character. I knew it was some kind of a seal. Didn't know what the deal was, but it was they were speaking out against the seal killing back in the days, and it became their mascot. So thrilled to pick these two up. We'll be picking up the third album by Riot 5. Love their stuff. Love the new sound. And I will be trying to track down that live album at some point too. But anyway, just wanted to share great stuff. Check it out if you're not familiar with Riot 5. If you aren't familiar with the whole Riot story, go watch these 5 documentaries. They're, you know, an hour or more so a piece. Really interesting stuff. Lots of archive footage. Lots of great stuff. That's it for this one, though. Just wanted to share my little findings. I'll see you later. Rock on and rock hard.